in Gotchiland.
How's y'all holidays, Christmas?
Not bad. Can't complain for the most part.
Nice, man.
I got lucky and had a whole Christmas week and had mom and father-in-law come in, spend a whole week with us. It was a good time.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, same kind of deal. Dinner with family, chilling, relaxing a little bit.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, back, GM.
There we go.
Yo,
Hey, GM guys.
Yeah, really well.
Sounds like break is going well. Everyone's chilling.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been good to kind of wind down a bit in the last year and get everything in line for next year. So
Totally, man.
it's gonna be a
Cleaning
big
my
year.
desk and cleaning things up, getting ready for next year. Hanging out with family. It's been a nice break here.
Yeah, speaking of cleaning, I was just like looking at my laptop this morning. I was looking at the vents in the back. I'm like, dang, there's all this little dust dangling off out of there. I think it's time to take it apart and give it a good clean. So be ready for Gotchi gaming in 2024.
Yeah. Remember those like older computers you used to have to like spray it with that canned air?
Yeah.
We've come a long way in terms of like laptops and stuff.
The canned air is great for your keyboards. I mean, I have one of those illuminated keyboards so you can see like every speck of dust. So I like to keep my keyboard spotless.
Oh. So it's
hang on.
still so people still use it.
Yeah.
Are we not cleaning our PCs anymore? Is that because I still do that?
I don't have a PC, but I guess I would clean it with canned air if I did have one.
I mean, it's come a bit like I use a little handheld electric thing now.
Okay.
It's a little better.
I like this like the alcohol swabs. Just use that on the laptop screen, the keyboard works real good.
Taking us back to the Nintendo days.
Speaking of cleaning up desks, I broke out some of my like pro camera video audio stuff. I think I'm gonna start doing some YouTube stuff. I don't know, YouTube streaming. We'll figure it out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's easy. YouTube though. Ooh, look at Thrax. Thrax looking good. I've kind of stopped streaming to YouTube. I feel like it's kind of like X is where everything is. Although YouTube does have its advantages. Hefe, are you streaming to Twitch right now or to YouTube or to all three?
Oh yeah, let me drop this link. I'm streaming to the Aavegotchi DAO channel right here. So yeah, check that out, friends. If you're not subscribed to Aavegotchi DAO, this is where I'll live stream there from here as like I know a few other guys like yourself do it too. But I was thinking maybe putting some videos up on Aavegotchi DAO as well in the new year.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, for like, if there's a way, because I just figured out recently that you can delegate through X Pro accounts. So, like, you don't have to give the password to the account, but you can delegate
Mhm.
it to another user that's on X. So when we hit up some IRL events, I would love to be able to post there because that was the one thing we weren't able to do at Art
Hmm.
Basel. It kind of went through my account, and I tried to tag as often as possible. But if we can directly post there, that'd be amazing.
That would be cool, man. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, like the more content we can get up on Aavegotchi DAO's like YouTube channel, I think would be good, like for people just to see that for visibility too. Yeah, it looks like
Yeah,
we're
X
live.
Pro is pretty good. We use it.
So has anyone used Grok? Because if you have X Pro, you have access to that now, I believe.
You have to get like premium or like premium plus or something for Grok, which I'm not honestly. I don't care enough to pay for because from what I can see, and like if anyone has experience to the contrary, please let me know. But it just looks like a GPT like response thing that he's asked to be sassy, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
pretty
played
much.
around with it. It's like having like, yeah, exactly. I think you said it. You summed it up there.
I think they trained it on a different model, or at least they said they did. But I played with it
Well,
once. I was like, they analyze my tweets feature, and it was. You guys might have seen that tweet. It was kind of stupid.
I think that's
Like,
the main power of it is that it has access to live Twitter.
yeah,
But like meh.
Yeah, I mean the when we're talking, pro versus premium plus, the big thing I've noticed from premium plus is I get way less ads,
Hmm.
and I feel like my content gets more reach. Like in the last couple weeks, I've gotten like 300 or 400 followers. It's probably a mix of Art Basel and being a Gone Maxi or whatever. So that probably plays in a little bit, but it seems like I don't know. Like it just feels like I'm not. It's more quality, but I'm paying extra $7 a month for some hopium, so who knows?
Yeah, we don't know what's going on the back end there, but I'm sure there's some benefit to that. And yeah, speaking of gone, I saw some in my wallet actually. I have like $80 worth. I guess a whole bunch of people got airdropped some of this.
Yeah, it went out to 20 different projects. I think it was like 10,000 wallets or something received. So I actually have it in 3 different wallets. I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, it's been a cool little ride. They denounced the contract. They burnt the LP. So people are calling it like the Bitcoin of Polygon shitcoins. But
Yeah. So you're hodling? Sounds like it.
yeah, I've been paper hands on too many projects. I've also I have the tendency of holding the thing that pumps and dumping the thing that dumping what pumps and holding what dumps. So it always goes the opposite for me. So I'm just like, I don't even know. I'm just gonna hope for the best. 2024, good vibes.
So
I
we should
saw that.
sell,
Like,
is what you're saying?
didn't Gone deploy on like Solana too, or someone like
Originally, yeah, the original coin is called Polygon with the E at the end of it, and the
yeah, yeah.
Solana influencers would make fun of us saying that we were gone. We were
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, I know. But they made a Polygon. They made a Gone on Solana, like rip off token of the Gone token, didn't they?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
a
remember
It's
that.
recent.
like
Yeah, that's
a
a
cope token.
exactly correct. Yeah, and the Polygon community from here has reached out to try to collaborate, and of course they got the door shut in their face, and now it's a whole thing. Not shocked.
It was
It's done
yeah.
pretty well though. It's lasted fairly well. I think it's like kind of dumping right now, but had a nice run up there for a little bit.
Yeah, the moment that the top happened this week was the same moment we were doing a Polygon hangout, and apparently Sandeep and Mark Boron, I believe his name is Boyron, the
Yeah.
CFO or CEO of Polygon, joined the Discord because they've been like kind of interacting with the tweets from the Gone team, and eventually Mark is like, "Oh, I had to sit down and explain to Sandeep what Gone was, and now he gets it." And then they joined the Discord, everything went wild, and then it dumped.
Sandy was like, "Why is my face on a shitcoin?" Must have been funny for him.
I know in the past you said that DeFi is not really going to live on Gotchi chain; it's going to be gaming. But can you see a Gotchi meme coin eventually happening outside of the one? Like, because I don't think our Alchemica is a meme
Hmm.
coin. Neither Glitter is not a meme coin. They actually have utility. But could you see something like that on Gotchi chain, or is that just not the use case?
Well, I think,
Please don't. Don't do
yeah.
it.
I mean, I'm like meme tokens are basically just pump and dumps with like people as the exit liquidity. So they're cool, but I don't know if we're not gonna like encourage that on Gotchi chain. I think there might be a DEX though on Gotchi chain. It's still unclear like how quickly Polygon is going to be able to roll out this idea of like shared liquidity on each CDK. And I want to think that it will be fairly quick, like Q2. have some very, very rudimentary, some sort of DEX on the chain. Kind of what we had originally envisioned for Gotchi chain, for the GAX. And the GAX just wasn't, it just became unnecessary because QuickSwap is doing such a good job on Polygon and also like Uniswap. But unless we ask QuickSwap to deploy to Gotchi chain, which we could, we could also like run a very rudimentary DEX, but that's probably not something that like Pixelcraft really should be doing, just for legal reasons. That was also the reason that the GAX is supposed to be a DAO owned, like DAO owned liquidity, DAO owned deployment, all of that. So like, having a DEX and then having like a meme token ecosystem on Gotchi chain, yeah, it has pros and cons for sure.
I was wondering about this last night, Dan. Can we talk a little bit about the process for building teams to deploy on the Gotchi chain? What is that going to look like?
So the smart contract deployments will be like, not anyone can just come on to the chain and deploy anything, because it'll be more like Ronin in that sense, that we want to keep it a little bit more permissioned, just so we can't get like projects coming on like an ordinals or something coming on and just spamming the whole chain, making it unusable for normal day-to-day stuff. So like if you have a team, if you've put together a team and have an idea for something, you'll just reach out to Pixelcraft or start in the DAO and basically just pitch the idea. And if it's a good idea and it's not a super spammy thing that's gonna use up all the block space or like overload the sequencer, then it'll probably get approved. And as long as it's almost like fake gotchis in a way. And we might eventually have more of a some way to automate it, but it'll be more like keep it gotchi, keep it friendly, don't spam the network. We're not going to like be super protective of it, but at the same time we want to make sure that all the projects on the chain are high quality. Yeah, I think in material, all the normal wallets will work on Gotchi chain because it's EVM compatible. Things like MetaMask and Rabby should be fine. And then we're also planning to have like smart wallets as well. Yeah, just a new chain ID. And we actually got the social login stuff working a while back. We're just not sure we want to deploy it yet, like allowing people to log into Aavegotchi.com with Google. The tech is almost there. It's just a question of like if whichever provider we end up going with, if they flake out or if something much better comes along like within 3 months, it's like a situation of all those people that logged in with social login are kind of like now linked to one provider, and it's kind of a headache. So we just want to make sure that we're definitely going to have that feature on Gotchi chain. It's just a question of like, once we pull the trigger on that, it's kind of a headache to pivot to another provider for it. Like there's no vendor lock-in, but it's just like a pain to have to get people to migrate. So that feature will be on Gotchi chain. That's going to be a super nice feature. And there'll also be a lot of gas related things that'll be really useful for people. Like if you buy something on the bazaar, we're probably going to pay the gas for that. Like there's trading like that will be much cheaper and basically friction free compared to Polygon.
Will we still include listing prices?
Ahead.
I mean, sorry, the fee to list on, I guess, the bazaar on Gotchi chain?
Well, this is part of our Ghost Staking 2.0 proposal that we'll be putting out some some text on that early in the year here. What do we got here, Golden Cross?
Ooh, yeah, I perked up too. It's like staking 2.0.
I'm happy to talk about it if we want to go into it a little bit. I mean, the proposal we've basically gotten it ready. Not quite sure what the DAO will think of it because it's going to be a little bit controversial, but I think it addresses a lot of things that are important in the ecosystem and kind of takes a broader look at where we want to go as a project and how we want to attract new participants.
Yeah, let's discuss it. Whatever you're comfortable discussing.
Sure. Sounds like there's a little bit of interest. I don't know if Golden Cross, if you're on as well, feel free to chime in. But it comes in a few parts. And so no worries. What we've put out so far, you guys, I'm sure some of you read the blog post talking about a dual token staking system. It mentioned Ghost and Glitter. Maybe someone can link over to the blog post if you got it handy. So basically, what we want to do is connect. The whole intention of the proposal is to connect Ghost more to the overall growth of the ecosystem, and also enable yield for Ghost in a way that's not going to be that's not going to basically end up in like a death spiral where you have like you're paying the yield in the native token, which can work for some. I mean, it's worked in a lot of projects, but at the same time, it's not. I don't think it's hard to say whether it's sustainable or not to do that, like paying the yield in Ghost. So we looked around at the ecosystem that we've built so far, and one thing that kind of stood out to us was the bazaar and the trading fees on the bazaar are currently going to Pixelcraft and they're going to the DAO. And it's not a huge amount of like revenue either for Pixelcraft or for the DAO when separated. It's like 2.2% and 1.5%. But when put together, 3.5%, or maybe a little bit higher, it could be part of a proposal. Basically taking that yield and instead of it going to Pixelcraft or the DAO, because the DAO is pretty well funded after the bonding curve proposal, back in earlier this year, basically moving that yield and redirecting it towards Ghost stakers. And so what that kind of does is the yield from the bazaar fees and the trading on the bazaar goes to Ghost stakers. And what we really liked about that is that now there's direct value accrual from the success of the ecosystem. So like imagine Axie and all the trading that they have of their Axies and stuff and their land and all that. They do like couple, I think it's like a few million in volume, like every day. And we're not there yet, but imagine that we could get there one day when we have Aavegotchis trading and land trading and Gotchi Guardians skins and Spirit Force Arena assets, all these different games trading on the bazaar. All their assets are being traded on the bazaar. It's like an open sea, or it's like Axie's marketplace, but instead of just like a few games, you have all the games being built on Gotchi chain, all trading on the bazaar, generating fees, and those fees are then directed over to Ghost stakers, and Ghost is being used as the main utility of Ghost is governance, and also being used as the gas token on Gotchi chain. So there's a strong link now between Ghost and the growth of Aavegotchi and the success of Aavegotchi as an ecosystem that doesn't currently really exist. Right? Like right now, you're holding Ghost. since Fringe were sunset back in, at the beginning of the year, there's not a lot to really do with Ghost or strong reason to hold it besides governance. And as a utility token, obviously we want to make sure that there's plenty of utility for the token. So now that addresses where the yield comes from, but we haven't talked about what the yield is. So the blog post we put out does mention that the yield will be in ETH and not in something else. So the more controversial part of this proposal, well, I think it's all going to be kind of controversial potentially, but one of the more controversial parts of the proposal, and one that is, I could view it as almost optional, although I think if you take it away, the proposal isn't as interesting, would be basically changing the currency that we value the assets of Aavegotchi in, from currently it's in Ghost and everything is traded in Ghost. Everything in the marketplace is listed in Ghost, and people outside of our ecosystem have to like look at Ghost and be like, all right, if I want to participate in your marketplace, I got to get some Ghost. So I'm going to go over to QuickSwap, or I'm going to go over to Uniswap, and I'm going to get some Ghost, and then I'm going to be able to trade in your bazaar. Kind of a pain in the ass. And it's also, it kind of separates us from the other assets in our sphere, which are generally valued in ETH or Matic. And it also, when the sellers of the assets receive Ghost, and maybe they want to cash out, so they got to sell Ghost in order to actually earn revenue from selling stuff in the bazaar. So our proposal, part of the proposal will be, let's consider changing the underlying currency, since we have new utility for Ghost now as the gas token. Let's change the token that we value everything in over to ETH. ETH is a common currency. Everyone knows it. A lot of people have it. It's easy to bridge. ETH is very versatile. People know what 0.1 ETH is valued in. It's a universal currency basically of crypto at this point. So everything in the bazaar would now be valued in ETH, just like other marketplaces. And the upside to that is that now when the fees are generated, they're actually being generated in ETH. And so that ETH can then be can be redirected over to the stakers pool. So that's basically the proposal in a nutshell. As far as will the bazaar's like listing fees continue? Potentially, maybe. We're still we'll have to evaluate whether or not we will need the listing fees. But I think it's possible that we can get rid of them, because we don't really need them on Gotchi chain, because it's actually okay if people do a lot of transactions, like listing a lot of stuff in the bazaar, because that just is more use for Ghost, and the Ghost gets sent to the sequencers and everything like that. So they're already paying a price for listing, and that price is actually helping our ecosystem. So it's actually not a bad thing like it kind of was with the bazaar. And then one of my favorite parts of this is it's a little bit of an innovation, I think, on staking, and this is how Glitter kind of gets tied in, is that we're going to basically encourage stakers to take a longer view of this ecosystem and consider locking tokens up in order to get higher multipliers on how much you get of the staking pool. But at the same time, we don't want to force people to be like, I'm going to lock up for a year and then never be able to touch my tokens. I don't think that's really what we want to encourage as well. So there needs to be like a way to exit. And some staking protocols will have like an exit tax or something. And so we've basically, instead of doing like an exit tax, we're allowing you to modulate your lockup period by spending glitter. And basically there'll be a formula for like modulating your lockup based on how much glitter you spend. And the interesting part of this is that you can actually modulate your lockup up or down, not only down, but up. So the first time that you stake, you can choose a lockup period, like 2 days or 30 days or a year or whatever. But you can also spend glitter to increase your lockup after the fact. So say you locked up for 30 days and you later you come around and you say, hey, actually I want to lock up for 90 days because the multiplier is going to be dynamic based on how long your lockup time is. So if it's 30 days, your multiplier won't be as high as if it's 90 days. And every block, your lockup is going down and down and down, which means your multiplier is getting lower and lower and lower. So you actually, there'll be a way to modulate up modulate your lockup time. And you also, obviously, if you want to get out of the pool, you'll also be able to spend glitter to reduce your lockup time. And so every time you spend glitter, this part is still something we're going back and forth on, but I think it makes most sense to send that glitter also into the staking pool and allow the stakers to earn a portion of the glitter that's being spent on modulating the positions up and down. So yeah, basically we have a staking system in a nutshell that ties Ghost directly to the success of the ecosystem. It uses glitter in a novel and kind of innovative way. It kind of it changes our underlying currency for the bazaar from Ghost to a token that's easier for people to wrap their head around and has better liquidity. So if you want to do bigger purchases, you don't have to worry about getting glitter or getting Ghost. And yeah, I think it's we think it's a very interesting proposal. We're gonna, again, there's nothing totally fixed or confirmed about it. We want to have a deeper conversation once the text is published. But yeah, I think this is basically, I don't know if I missed anything, Golden Cross, feel free to chime in here in the chat. But something I'm really excited about, and I think is a very needed part of to kind of tie a bow on this ecosystem and really help bring the circle of win.
I have a few questions. It sounds awesome, but
yeah.
I have a few questions. So is it ETH or is it wrapped?
Well, it'd be so. This staking system would probably, like, we're not planning to deploy this onto Polygon. We're not going to like change everything that's already deployed on Polygon. So this would not be like a retroactive change. It'll be something that's deployed onto Gotchi chain where the most of the assets will be migrated. And so on Gotchi chain, it will be like you'll be transferring your WETH from Polygon or from Base or wherever you have your WETH, and you can get it onto Gotchi chain.
So basically I'm asking because I'm expecting to swap my ETH for Ghost, and I want to know, like, is that easy?
Yeah, so yeah, I talked a little bit about potentially having a DEX on the chain. So this staking program the primary pool will likely be a Ghost WETH pool on Gotchi chain. That's how that's where you'll be depositing your staking tokens. We also had one final kind of fun idea, which may or may not make it into the final proposal, which is allowing people to basically trade their positions on the bazaar, and which would mean basically like a lot of staking programs, or even our previous staking that we had with friends, gave you a receipt token that you could then deposit in other places. But I think it'd be also interesting because there is like a lockup with this. Maybe it'd be interesting to have your position in the staking tokenized as an NFT, as an ERC 721, and then you could actually sell that position in the bazaar, and people could buy it, trade their positions, which would also generate fees for the stakers. It could be kind of interesting, but again, it's kind of, it might be too much.
How would that work with like a modulating position?
But the modulating position wouldn't really be affected. You wouldn't be able to trade. You wouldn't be able to like change the position if it's listed in the bazaar.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it'd be like Gotchiverse.
Yeah, it'd basically be locked, and that's kind of a cool thing that we can do with the bazaar. Like we can have tokens like that being locked up. So
This is gonna be a good discussion, Dan. I'm hoping to see some of the DeFi brains wake up again and get back in the mix. There's a lot of components to talk about here. It's decent ideas, but there's definitely some thought experiments to do. Like what was his name here? Crypto Green said, "I've yet to see a successful long-term lockup staking model that kicked ass." So it'd be interesting to kind of talk through some of this.
Well, a lot of those staking programs, like one of them is like Hex, comes to mind. They were paying the yield in their native token because they don't generate any real value. So
yeah, correct. Even closer is Chi. I think looking at the Chi DAO model would be probably one of the more recent self-flooding long-term lockup models. It seems that they had to hit the emergency button on it and kind of change the whole model.
Yeah. LSD is also definitely a potential idea to look into for like what basically the idea is that your position is locked up and it's earning, but you're also able to trade the position around. And we don't want to have it as an ERC20 token. I think because we're not really trying to encourage, like we don't want to have another token that we have to manage liquidity for. So I think it'd be fun to have it as an ERC 721 in the bazaar.
I think this sounds all cool, but this is complicated. Like if you're on the outside looking in as a degen, this is like what? Like what's happening? So listening and thinking of this, I just don't know. Is there a way to make this like simple, like to sell this to people?
I mean, I think the premise is pretty simple. If you zoom out a little bit, the premise is, hey, if you believe in that Aavegotchi is going to be a successful and bigger project, then you can basically start earning fees from the marketplace. As like you can point to projects like Axie that have a marketplace, do a lot of fees, and yet none of those fees actually go back to like AXS holders or anything like that. And so you're basically, by providing liquidity with Ghost WETH, you're helping support that ecosystem, and in return you're going to get a portion of the fees that are generated from the bazaar.
The
I don't think
wearables,
that's too complicated.
the wearables being listed in ETH is a really interesting idea, given that the dynamics of Ghost, like you said, have changed so much over the last year. It makes sense. Like I feel like it would actually be an attractor for degens. Like if they hear that wearables are priced in ETH, I think that's something that a lot of people like will intuitively understand, like in terms of value, like what like 0.1 ETH is, what 0.01 ETH is.
Yeah, I think we love everything in Ghost, and it's easy for us to understand. People looking on the outside, just that one layer of math that people have to do to like convert Ghost into ETH, I think can be, it can be kind of it's a friction that we've self-imposed on our ecosystem. And I think it made sense when Ghost was more like a stable coin. It like literally in the tokenomics, it was more stable because it had the bonding curve under it. But now without that bonding curve, it's just another kind of free floating token, and it's going to be more and more volatile. So just the question is like, does it make sense to continue using Ghost as that's going to become more volatile over time as our like underpinning token, or now that it has new utility with Gotchi chain as the gas token, do we need to, maybe we can think about how to improve and reduce friction for new people coming in.
One idea we kicked around was if we, like, everything would be priced in ETH from the outside, but if you're a Gotchi gang, you could buy everything in Ghost. And it would be slightly cheaper, like to incentivize people to.
Yeah, we could price things in ETH and then have a way to purchase stuff with Ghost. Not sure if, I mean, maybe on the smart contract side, we could do something where there's like a discount on the bazaar that like people in the bazaar would need to accept that, right? Because it's not like we're the one selling the assets. It's a peer-to-peer marketplace. So if you list something for 1,000 or 0.1 ETH, you want to get 0.1 ETH. You don't necessarily want to earn point like less than that. And also the fees will be in ETH. So like one thing I think we could do is having the marketplace in ETH, but offering a pay with Ghost option just for people that don't want to hold ETH. They just want to hold Ghost. So if you want to do that, you can. But that would basically just swap the Ghost to ETH in one transaction and then pay for the asset. I see a question from Immaterial. What's the use case for Ghost? So I think there's 3 main use cases for Ghost. One is the established one is governance, just having the voting power in Aavegotchi DAO. I think that's a lot of people hold Ghost for that reason. Number 2 is the new utility of the gas token for Gotchi chain. And number 3 is something we already do, but there'll be more and more of it as the games become more and more live, which is just like Ghost as an in-game reward token, or like a game token that people can play with in games. But I think that's more of a reward token model. It's more on this sell pressure side, not really utility side. So I think the main utilities will be governance and governance, gas token. And I should also obviously, like, earning fees in the marketplace would also be a new utility for Ghost when paired with Weave.
When would this be implemented versus, I guess, the implementation of Gotchi chain, if you have an idea? Because gas utility won't happen until we have Gotchi chain. So I just wonder if there's going to be like a period in between, or do you plan on launching at the same time?
This would be together with Gotchi chain, or we'll likely get Gotchi chain testnet up, and then this would be like one of the first dApps deployed on the Gotchi chain alongside the marketplace. Crypto Green, legally, it's not a wise idea to have single staking Ghost for really anything. So that's why it's being paired with Weave, because if it's just a single stake, it's very, very similar to the S word. So by pairing it with Weave, it's much safer for everyone in the ecosystem to be, because there's like impermanent loss. You're taking a little bit more risk and providing a service, a utility to the ecosystem by providing liquidity. So we're not going to be doing any single staking Ghost. Just looking at the comments here.
Do we see Gotchi chain coming out Q1, or is this something that we'll see a little later into the year?
So as far as mainnet, we've been in communication with the Polygon team and various partners. I don't think, as far as I've seen, there's not, besides Polygon ZK EVM, there's not any Polygon CDK chains that have gone to mainnet yet. Might be wrong on that. It's been a couple days since I've checked, but we're we're basically at the whim of Polygon CDK and making sure that they want people to be live with CDK on mainnet. I remember chatting with one of the partners and saying that there was a big update that's coming. I think it's gonna be in like February or something. And that if we deployed onto mainnet before that, then we would probably have to do like a migration, which sounded very painful. And so I think we can get testnet live and are planning to go live with it sometime early Q1. So it's not a big effort to get a testnet live. It's quite simple. We just want to make sure that when we actually do launch a testnet, that it is basically the final version of what Gotchi chain will be, because things are changing a lot behind the scenes. Polygon is just they're executing their roadmap, doing a great job, but things always are changing quickly. We just don't want to launch something, and at this point, it's not really feasible to launch on mainnet until Polygon gives the green light, which from my conversations with them, they haven't really been like, yes, go green light, go do it yet, guys. Like they have a couple more upgrade, at least one more major upgrade that's coming before we would be confident to launch like a full mainnet deployment. But testnet, yes, testnet isn't too far off.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see some of these games, many of these games migrating to Gotchi chain and being able to experiment with that on testnet.
Can I ask a side question real quick?
Yeah.
So like for Aavegotchis, I've got I'm starting off with like all weapons unlocked so people can just try everything out. But eventually the plan is to be like each weapon is an NFT. So like there's like, for example, the Big Mech you can mount 4 weapons on. And so in theory, if you have like 4 FUD blasters or like 4 alpha cannons or whatever, they're like 4 NFTs in your wallet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would I be able to trade those on Gotchi chain, like in the bazaar?
Yeah, that's the whole idea of like having the bazaar on Gotchi chain and becoming like the main hub of liquidity. So we're going to continue focusing on like there've been some aesthetic changes to the bazaar recently. Like we're trying to expand it out a little bit so we can support more collections beyond just like the core Aavegotchi assets. So Gotchi Guardians, Spirit Force Arena, I'm sure one day like Dropped will have assets as well. So we want all those assets to be tradable in the bazaar, and then all the stuff that gets traded will be like the fees from that would go towards Ghost stakers.
Nope.
Yeah, so right now the fees are going towards Pixelcraft and the DAO, and so one of the proposals in this, one of the changes in this proposal will be that those fees will now be redirected to Ghost stakers that are providing liquidity. So that's change number 1. Change number 2 is that we're going to change the underlying currency used in the bazaar will no longer be Ghost, it will be ETH. And change number 3 will likely be that the bazaar listing fee will now be removed, and it will just, anyone can make a listing as long as they have the gas. That's correct, Dortz. Yeah, I mean, over the 3 years that the bazaar has been live, it really has not generated a super significant amount of funds for the player rewards. So that's why, or for Pixelcraft, I mean, it's not insignificant amount, but at the same time, I don't think the DAO, like it hasn't funded a full rarity farming season. But it will grow. I'm sure it will grow as the ecosystem does grow. We just have to ask ourselves, is it worth continuing to fund the player rewards wallet now, even after the DAO has already had quite a big injection of Ghost and DAI from the bonding curve, or is it worth thinking about how that yield could potentially be redirected towards other use cases? So Hot Curly Fry says, won't there be friction of new people having to buy or swap to Ghost anyway, since it's gas token? So a lot of the main transactions that you do, and this is something we're working with partners on, like to figure out how we can make this kind of a system. But I don't know if you guys remember when we migrated to Polygon, they gave everyone, I think it was 0.1 Matic or like 1 Matic back in the day that got airdropped to your wallet. So something like that is very possible. Or what we would prefer is that we have a system set up with account abstraction where we can pay for like the first 10 transactions of a user on the chain, or also things like when you buy something on the bazaar, we're not going to charge you gas for that. It's just going to be a normal, like it's going to be a gasless transaction because you're generating value for the ecosystem. So I think how it will work is like individual dApps will be able to choose to pay for the gas for their games if they would like to. For like if you have an on-chain game or a game that does something on chain, you can choose to pay for the gas. Pixelcraft might also pay for the gas for your players for a while. Also, anything that is like generating value in the ecosystem, like buying something in the bazaar or some sort of purchase of an asset, that will likely be a gasless transaction. Something like making a swap on the DEX probably won't be gasless because we're not going to pay for like every transaction. I don't think it's really necessary. And also, we don't want to incentivize people spamming the network just because everything is free, like you see on Solana. So the transactions that bring value and matter will likely be gasless. The ones that are useful but don't really generate value for the overall ecosystem will likely be either paid by the user or paid by individual dApps. And yeah, we'll likely have some daily, allocation of free transactions as well. Yeah, Flame, we won't use Matic. There will be no use case for Matic on Gotchi chain that I know of. Checking the comments here. What happens with the current bazaar on Polygon? We are going to encourage people to migrate all of your assets over to Gotchi chain once it does go live. And I expect that the current bazaar will just have less and less activity on it as more and more activity goes on the Gotchi chain. We might even have some like incentives for trading on Gotchi chain just to kick things off a little bit. But a lot of some of the assets that are deployed on Polygon will still be minted there. For example, fake Gotchis will still continue to be minted on Polygon, and same with like opening portals and stuff. We're not going to change those because it's just not really feasible to like redo that on Gotchi chain. So you'll continue to open a new portal and stake it on Polygon, and then if you want to use it on Gotchi chain, you'll just migrate it over. So a little bit of friction, but that's geared more towards like power users, not towards like newbies. And yeah, there should be batch migration like using layer 0. Hoping that layer 0 airdrop doesn't come too early next year. Could be a good opportunity if we can get in on that. Dort says, what currently still funds player rewards to ensure continuous funding? Capital from the curve will eventually run out. I think all of the games that everyone is building should all fund player rewards, or at least the DAO in some form. Like that, we've seen precedents. Obviously, the Pixelcraft games will. I think Sandbox, the game that Gotchi Farmy did, it wasn't a huge amount, but there was definitely a portion that was paid towards the DAO, and any game receiving DAO funding should and earning revenue or income should give a portion back to the DAO, especially if it's like DAO funded. So as we have more and more games coming out, I think we'll have more revenue going to the DAO.
Also, rentals of what's it called? Wearables.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Orium network is doing that proposal.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'm excited for Gotchi Chain and everything that comes with it, including some games that are in the works right now.
Yeah, I'm really excited for. I mean, Gotchi Chain, having our own chain does open up a lot of possibilities, as we talked about, for like the Aavegotchi gaming console, which is basically an on-chain player profile kind of reputation system for individual players. So you'll be earning badges and achievements for your player profile in each game. Those will be on-chain, not tradable, but they'll be kind of soulbound tokens most of the time that you can just show off, and that'll be your kind of on-chain reputation in the Aavegotchi ecosystem. So I think it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Are these going to be off-chain badges, or will they be on-chain?
They will, like, as far as the metadata, I think it'll likely be like stored on Arweave, and then just the badges themselves will be minted on chain, and then the metadata will likely be pointing to like Arweave.
Nice. See,
Otherwise, we have limitations of storage space and stuff like we've encountered with badges.
Well, I was just thinking token gated matches, right? Like you need to have this certain badge or certain group of badges to be able to get into a custom match that I created. So that's really cool that you guys are doing this on chain. It reminds me of like Xbox rewards, like achievements, where you'd be just playing the game and you kill an enemy or something, and they'd be like, "Oh, you got a Slayer badge. Oh, sick! I got a Slayer badge."
Guys, I mean, I don't know if Andy's in the call. I think he said he's feeling a little under the weather, but he's got this list of like 250 different achievements. I think it's just for Spirit Force Arena.
Dang.
Like it's an insane amount of achievements that they've already come up with, and every game will have at least the games that we're making will all be using this achievement system. So games like Dropped and Mechagotchi and stuff, Stratagotchi, I'm sure you'll also be able to plug into this system just like you can with like an Xbox achievement system as well. Like it'll be, we will be minting the badges, but your games will basically be talking to our API. And when your game triggers something, you'll call our API, which will then mint the badge to the player. And there'll be rewards. There'll be like small things that you receive for like unlocking those achievements.
Oh, that's sick. I mean, this is like Xbox achievements, but next level, because there's actually like some sort of like a gating function that people can use here where you couldn't do that before. It was just like, it was a feel good thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Andy says 200 badges only for combat and loyalty related challenges. So like they'll be like if you have had an account for 365 days or 7 days, whatever, there'll be different achievements that you just randomly get for logging in. Or if you kill 10 liquidators in a match or something like that, that will be also like an achievement that you get. And each game will have its own reward system if it wants. There'll usually be like rewards that are given out for unlocking those. The achievements, I think Gotchis will continue to have achievements. We definitely want to keep that going, and we will be getting those badges out early in January. But most of the player profile stuff will be for the player, so it'll appear like in your Aavegotchi gaming console player profile, which is basically it's going to probably just be your wallet for the beginning, but we like as the smart wallet tech continues to improve, eventually we'd love to be using like a smart wallet, so you can have multiple wallets linked to one like smart account. Still, that tech is kind of still evolving though. So yeah, we got a big January, big February, lots of things to do. Team's gonna be super busy, but yeah, I think we got a lot to look forward to. And obviously the games themselves, I've been hearing lots of good feedback about Guardians. Spirit Force Arena is also going to continue, and slowly, now that the groundwork has been laid, we can start getting into more of the Gotchiverse 3D stuff. We've basically gotten what we need in terms of 3D, laying the foundation for that. So now it's just finishing the 3D assets, and I believe Andy and the team are also working on like D1. It's going to be a very basic version of a D1 kind of social experience, and then right after that, we're gonna start farming again. We'll have the farming live in Gotchiverse 3D.
Ooh, yeah. Speaking of fun games, my mom actually played Licky's Escape,
Nice.
and then she was like, "Hey, so my birthday's coming up, and I want a gotchi." I was like, "Okay." So I went out and
Dope.
bought her a gotchi. So she has a uni gotchi now, and she's like, "So
Oh my
how do I
God.
use this in the game?" I'm like, "Well, you can't use it in this game, but there's gonna be a ton of
Yeah.
other games where you can." And she's all bought into it now. She actually went to the
Oh my
UI
God.
and checked it out. And so yeah, I think I got some good feedback from a normie mom that's like non-crypto.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that's exactly the power of all these games, like reinforcing each other. If you like Lickies, you're like, oh, this is pretty fun. Like, what is what is this Aavegotchi thing? And then you start looking in, you're like, oh my God, there's 12 games I can play. And I can get this Aavegotchi and take it around and play games with it. It's pretty neat. Yeah, on board your mom achievement unlocks. That's dope. Yeah, Licky's is also planned. We'll have the launch as long as we can get in the App Store and stuff in January. I know that's also going to be coming, and it definitely gets pretty hard, especially like World 4 and 5. I was playing them on an airplane. I was like it took me a decent part of the airplane ride to get through. It's fun. It's a really fun game.
Yeah, I hope we see more like mobile games, like both DAO developed and maybe whatever you guys got cooking up in the future that we don't even know about coming onto mobile. I think that's going to be another game changer because like
Well,
not everyone.
Guardians will be mobile friendly for
Oh,
sure.
yeah,
That's
okay,
that's
there
going
you
to be
go.
the next big mobile game that we get. Lickies was and is just like a fun experiment to get our feet wet with mobile games after it's been a while since we've done like personally since I've done any Apple iOS stuff. So the next one will be getting Gotchi Guardians mobile friendly, which I think uh, Slum and the team were aiming for something in like Q2 next year. So it'll take some time. We want to make sure that we've gotten all the content we want with well, not all the content, but a good amount of content in the desktop version, and then boom, straight to mobile. Because it's a mobile game. I mean, it plays like it will play like a mobile game. And I think that's where the power of Guardians will be.
Yeah, that's an epic mural there. Smoke screens. That got a lot of eyeballs, I bet. All right, friends. Shall we get into the DAO call? Kick off the DAO?
Sure.
Let's do it. Okay, I mean, let me share my screen here real quick first. Alrighty. Okay, yeah, let's rip through some of these proposals. Many of them are agaps from last week. So let's just run through them real quick. I did look over them earlier today, and it looks like almost everything is met quorum. So let's go through the proposals. And we'll start off with whatever ended. I guess these ended 2 weeks ago. Yeah, okay. So we'll start with 102. Agip 102 is the TFG alpha funding proposal for dropped, and many people played. I think it was overwhelmingly in favor of, on the SIG prop, of moving forward. So I think it was like 80 or 90% in favor of. And the core prop results actually reflect that here. 80% in favor of it, 19% against, and it's met quorum with 11 million votes. So this is like the full alpha phase of dropped, and for anyone who hasn't got their hands on this game during the early phase, it is a dungeon crawler where you have a multiplayer component and there was a tournament, super fun, and this is being developed by Oliver Spoon. So the total ask here is 353,000 DAI, and the total ghost ask is 30,000. So development period is, I think the August deliverables end in, the last deliverables end in August. So should be ready about halfway through the year. So that's kind of cool. And if you haven't voted on this, you have 2 days left. So get your votes in, friends. Agip 104, upgrading the ATF. This is a SIG prop from last week as well. 93% in favor of and 6% against. And this is just modifying the parameters that the ATF had earlier for a hard limit of 500 ghosts per game. And I mean, really, it made sense to increase that amount. Even the discussions in the ATF server, it sounded like there'd be more use of these reward funds if we could increase them to the proposed 4,000 ghost here. So 4,000 ghosts per calendar year to fund gaming prize pools per game, 5 fake Gotchi cards per calendar year, and 1,000 ghosts per calendar year to assist with server hosting costs, playtest funding, fake Gotchi art commissions, marketing, and other activities to help raise awareness. So some major benefits here to allow game developers more flexibility when they're creating prize pools, and quicker turnaround for funding approvals. I know we had maybe a couple DAO members that had to go through like the SIG prop and core prop process just to get some funding for a tournament. So you won't have to worry about that anymore. So hit up the ATF. If someone has a server link, definitely drop that in the chat. And if you're a game developer or aspiring, it's a great place to hang out and throw your questions around. There's some really intelligent people in there. Shout out to Slick as well for keeping things moving forward in there. So go get your votes in, guys. 2 days left on that one as well. Agip 103, written by Dr. Wagme, and this was quite a long discussion, but it does make sense where we're at in the market. Strategic treasury diversification into Ethereum with 3 million ETH purchase. And this is 89% of the DAO was in favor of this, with 10% being against it, and a met quorum with 9.3 million votes. So with this one specifically, it wasn't really framed as an investment. Of course, it's some enhanced diversification for the portfolio, but primarily to maybe reduce some of our DAI exposure, because we're for the most part exposed to DAI aside from Ghost. So there's also a hedge against inflation. There's some capital appreciation potential, of course, and then access to DeFi opportunities, which could be a further discussion if we want to stake in Lido, Rocket Pool, or something like that. And that can be another discussion we can kick off and just have early discussion on that as well. Of course, there's some risk to that. There's always market volatility with these sorts of tokens. ETH can be volatile at times. So that is something to keep in mind. And then, of course, accessibility of funds. So I don't, I don't think these funds would be used to like disperse ETH for projects, for example. And last one here is supply 3.5 million treasury DAI to Aave, also by Dr. Wagme here, and suggesting to allocate roughly 3.5 million DAI to Aave v3 Ethereum market with a average APR of 4.34%, which if it stays around that average would equate to about 154,000 in yield a year, which would be great for funding things like DAO operations and just keep the treasury growing. So let's see, and then there's a nice pie chart there, just how our portfolio breaks down. Looks like 54% would be in Ghost, 11% of it would be in ETH, 8% in unsupplied DAI, 13% in supplied DAI to Ethereum v3, and 14% in USDC. Of course, there's some risks here. There's some platform dependence, and there has been some concern in the past, in the discussion on I think Aave had an event a while ago where you weren't able to withdraw your funds for a certain period of time, and so that is a risk to keep in mind. But compared to many other platforms, Aave has been one of the more stable ones, but there's always that platform risk. So it does rely on the Aave ecosystem, stability of the smart contracts, and so there's some platform specific stuff there. Liquidity constraints, so future proposals may require accessing funds from the supplied DAI if the Polygon treasury depletes. So there's also something to consider there as well. And then market volatility in reference to the APR, which will fluctuate over time. And then smart contract vulnerabilities. So that's kind of what I covered at the start there as well. So keep those in mind. Have a look at this proposal. And it looks like right now we're at 91% in favor of 8.32% against, with roughly 200K Ghost away from quorum. And you have 4 days on this one. So get your votes in. You have about two days for the first 2, 3, and then 4 days for the other ones. So get your votes in, and today's a good day to vote. So that wraps up the snapshot proposal review. And with that being said, we have 2 directors from the foundation. And I would like to open up the conversation there because I know there's some question about term limits. So I don't know, Future, Mike Callum, y'all are up here.
I got it. Yeah, I got it. Happy to lead the way. So elections for the original Aavegotchi DAO directors was what, last March, somewhere around there. We're coming up close to the 1 year wraparound for those. And so some friends in the DAO discussion have brought up when the next elections are. The directors have been discussing this since about October, November, went through the constitution of the founding document and the original SIG proposals just to confirm our understanding of the circumstance currently. And as it sits, there are currently no term limits for the Aavegotchi DAO directors, and there is no automatic timeline for elections to be triggered. And so as it sits, any director that's currently elected is serving indefinitely until either they step down or the DAO issues a specific proposal to initiate overall elections or to possibly remove a single individual, something of that nature. And so the awareness that needs to be brought to the DAO is the fact that the directors are currently serving indefinitely, and the discussion to be had is whether or not we want to make any adjustments as we move towards the anniversary of the directors and the foundation being created.
Has that been confirmed in the document? Like there's that extensive document when we developed the DAO Foundation, and it didn't, just to be sure, it didn't state anything in there about term limits?
That is my current understanding. I've personally dug through it all and found my truth in it. I know that Jesse has stepped up and confirmed that as well, and Choina as well been diving through it. And so as of right now, that is all of our current understanding. It's not an assumption. That is based on researching into that constitution and the original SIG props.
Okay. Okay. So is the question, I guess, should we have term limits, or is there a period that we're already thinking that there should be term limits, like a yearly election or bi-yearly election? Like internally, have the directors discussed that?
We haven't come to any mindset amongst the directors of what we'd like to see from the DAO. It's just been some discussion on the awareness of the circumstance, and so the directors aren't necessarily like discussing this in an in-depth way where we're trying to decide what we'd like to see happen or that we're leading the charge on how it should go. This is a DAO-led effort. And just to kind of redirect there too, Hefe, the term limits I think is almost the second part of the discussion. The first part of the discussion is whether or not overall elections want to be held annually, every 2 years, or just as needed by DAO action. Once the DAO decides on how it feels about elections in general, then the next part of that discussion would be if any particular individual would be subject to term limits. Those would be a secondary discussion on whether or not any individual could be elected, say, 7 times in a row, or do we want term limits on overall serving? But the first part of that discussion is when and how does the DAO want to see elections, period, regarding the directors.
Yeah, I actually brought this up like a couple months ago, saying that we have to figure out like what we're coming up. I think we're already near the time that the elections happened last year, or I guess the first round before we had to redo them when Yannick stepped away. But yeah, we if A is there an election. I was under the assumption there would be another election, and then B, like we have to build out the process. So I guess that's what we're here to talk about.
I mean, the first thought I have is that we're not like the DAO directors are basically just executing the will of the DAO. You're not really designing programs, or like you don't have really any major KPIs or requirements besides just executing the will of the DAO. So it's not like you're a CEO or like, a leadership or a growth team or something that could easily be quantified as whether you're doing a good job or not, or have like a platform to run on. So if there's no platform to really run on, and as long as the directors are executing the will of the DAO quickly and smoothly, personally, I don't see that there's a major need to have like yearly elections for the position. It would, in my opinion, like if a director can't do the position anymore for whatever reason, then we should have a process for filling the position. But there's like I don't think this role specifically needs to have a year, like a period or like an election, a term limit. That's just my personal opinion, though.
Yeah, I could see that. The one thing I was thinking is the conversation we were having about the liquidity funding, I guess, for the proposal that PC was going to put through, where Jesse came to the point of mentioning KYC. So one of the directors would have to do that, but also like the need for, because right now it's a lot of American directors. There are international directors, but to kind of diversify that pool a little bit. So that's why it's brought up also.
See, the document does specify that a director can step away or be replaced, right? In the case that one stepped away, I could see there being like, like an internal, maybe like a internal election at that point to see, okay, well, there's this individual that we want removed. So you'd remove that individual. And then what? I guess at that point you would have an election, but it would just be to replace the one individual, maybe.
Yeah, correct. That is the current mechanic.
So I guess internally, like, is that the case where somebody's gonna step away or someone needs to be replaced? I know it's yeah.
I don't think that's been expressed so far from anybody in the group.
Correct, and that would line up with what Dan's saying there too, is that our capacity is relatively limited, and it's pretty easy to evaluate whether a director is serving well or not, which is, are they showing up and available for signing transactions? And that's essentially the core of our power. It's not like we have standing weekly meetings to discuss agenda. We don't set itinerary. We don't lead the DAO calls. We don't write proposals on behalf of the DAO. We sign transactions. And thus far, at least for the last year that this has worked, I can personally say that team has only gotten better at it. The early days, we were kind of figuring our rhythm, and after about those first 2 months, I've seen pretty consistent clockwork out of the directors as thus far.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I haven't seen any friction or seen any sort of like concerns with what the directors are doing. I'm happy personally with how the directors are doing. You know, just pitching it to the audience. Is there anything that you have to add, like in terms of like if you're happy with this arrangement, if you have any concerns, comments, that thing, like something like that?
The one thing for me that I'd potentially like to see happen is, if anything, if the directors have more to offer. We watched Maxi Crouton step up and offer himself up as a treasurer officer position on that, and he's received an increased stipend for that serving capacity. And so I just want to make sure that we're happy with what we're getting out of the directors in general. Are they all doing what they need to be doing, and is the DAO happy with what they're doing? But again, let's emphasize that there's really a limited capacity that we are meant to do. And so amongst the 8 directors that are not in a treasurer position, they're definitely all doing exactly what they should do. And then Maxi Crouton's doing really interesting work with reports and filling out that treasurer capacity. I just don't know if the DAO's necessarily matured to a full place where we know what we want from that treasurer capacity at that full bang. It'd be the only thing I'd be discussing necessarily is how the officers fit into the current directors. But as it sits, I think the directors are doing what's required of them without concern.
One thing I'll bring up though, and I'm not sure, I don't know the specifics of this, but our compensation, wasn't it only for 1 year? Like, it's the proposal only paid out for 1 year, and the terms were set last year, right? Is that? I don't
It
think that's
doesn't
an
it,
agreement.
it doesn't set a runway. It just says what the amount paid is per annual. But it does not say that this amount is only budgeted for 2023. So it is currently set up as a perpetual service.
Okay, so then the other question I'll bring up, and this doesn't matter to me whatsoever, but I've heard other people bring it up, the idea of the DAO paying people in Ghost, because we are currently paid in Ghost. Is that something we want to change? I have no problem being, receiving Ghost. I received Ghost when it was at 70 cents. I'm hopefully going to receive it when it's at $5, whatever. But that's just my position. So does the DAO want that to change?
Well, I guess that would have to be a vote at a certain time. Like if if Ghost goes to like $10 a token, I mean at that point, like yeah, you're getting paid pretty well to do what you're doing. I think
Wait, you
that
guys
point.
are you receiving like a certain amount of fixed USD in Ghost, or is it you're receiving a fixed amount of Ghost?
It's
We
a
receive
fixed
a
amount of
fixed
ghosts
amount
currently.
Okay, got it.
Well, and yeah, I would imagine, yeah, in the future, to your point there, if Ghost starts going parabolic and getting wild, I would assume that a responsible DAO would evaluate their expenses and pass a proposal to curtail, wages gone wild.
Yeah, it doesn't help me to bring this up, but I think it's fair to bring it up. So just to be transparent.
I think after this proposal was passed, people started valuing things in a USD amount of Ghost. This was like one of the earlier proposals, I think.
Yeah,
where
you're correct.
It was still valued in just a fixed amount of Ghost. That should probably honestly be updated.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, no one really wants. I mean, volatility is great on the upside, but on the downside, I don't think anyone wants that. So if the directors would prefer to have the stipend paid in a certain fixed USD amount of Ghost, that could be a change that could be made.
Honestly, I don't think any of them want USDC. Most people who get paid from the DAO probably prefer Ghost because we're long Ghost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean like 2,500 USD worth of Ghost. That's what we do at Pixelcraft for our team members who prefer to be paid in Ghost. We just say we calculate the price at payday time and then just pay it out in Ghost.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We watched that transition on DAO proposals kind of happen post ETH Denver when we had those conversion issues, and it made sense. Even if you're paying out in Ghost, you choose a fixed amount of currency evaluation. And as of right now, the director's stipend is definitely not set up with that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say also for like further duties for the officers, I really, for me personally, I don't really think I need to do more because I'm focused on doing the media stuff for IRL, which is like an extension of the DAO, not necessarily as a signer, but as a participant. So I feel like that's enough for me. Like, I guess I can do more media
Yeah, I
related stuff.
feel.
I don't know that
per-
the DAO really wants or values that,
Well,
like on a regular basis.
and that's not a officer need expectation to
Yeah.
you. Yeah, we've only got the one officer on the directors board right now, and that IRL service is completely separate. So yeah, you're doing everything you need to right now for the directors.
In terms of reporting, like if the DAO wanted to, if DAO members wanted to get access to these reports, where could they? Do they just hit up Maxi Crouton, or do they live somewhere?
This would be I'd love to see that workflow improved, quite honestly, and I think we could probably get this more to a clockwork type model. But yeah, Maxi Crouton is doing his treasury reports regularly. I think he makes announcements on it. I'm also not positive where they get posted on a
Mm.
regular recurring basis, where it's easy for DAO members to find them, or some kind of DAO reporting
Nice.
dashboard or aggregated center. But Maxi Crouton does do a consistent job of producing these reports. I just don't think a lot of people care. I'm gonna be honest there. I don't think a lot of people show up when he makes his reports. I don't think a lot of people ask him questions or follow up. I don't think a lot of people are aware of what the directors are really doing and or capable of adding to this organization too.
Right.
So I don't think it's necessarily a discussion of re-elections. I think it's more a discussion of reawakening the organizational
Mm-hmm.
structure that we have and why it's not a negative and why it offers us some of the only structure and framework that we have inside the DAO. Because when people like me in the future are saying, well, the DAO would have to write a prop to possibly get this change, who are we talking to? And who are we talking about? Who is the DAO, quote unquotes, that's separate from the very same people that have stepped up to be leaders within the directorship? So there's definitely some, we don't want that to feel like there's a chasm or some kind of
Mm-hmm.
separation of entity there. And I'm worried that maybe not enough people understand the point of the directors board, who's on it, what the rules are, or what our expectations are.
I think it's just a sign. Like it's as simple as that. I'm like just a monkey with a ledger in my house. And when the DAO says you sign that, I go and I sign it. That's it. If I don't
Yeah.
want to sign it, I just don't sign it. I can't do anything else. No power beyond that. That's why I like having the IRL separately because I get activated as like one of the Power Ranger teammates in a way that works perfectly for me. That keeps everything decentralized because I'm still just a monkey with a ledger.
Well, I see here Maxi Crouton and FIFO have dropped a thing here for the Aavegotchi DAO Treasury Report, and it lives in the original Aavegotchi DAO forum, which I personally haven't gone to in probably like 6 months. So
Yeah,
it's
I think
there.
we're going to be improving the DAO section on Aavegotchi DApp. Right now, it just goes to that forum, but similar to how we've done with the tools and the dashboards, we're going to be adding like a DAO kind of page as well. So the treasury reports theoretically could be placed there. Like every time we make one, it could just be uploaded to the DAO kind of dashboard as well on the DApp. And that'll include any other, like any sort of DAO tooling or anything that we are using will also be linked there.
So just going back to the election question, I think at this point, could we say that really there isn't a need for an election, but maybe uh, internally that's a discussion for the directors if there is some replacements or refreshments that need to be made? I don't know. I don't see there being a reason really to have a whole nother election. It's pretty drawn out last time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree at all with that opinion personally, Hefe. I think the directors are doing a fine job of signing transactions quickly. I like the consistency in the back end. The only thing that maybe could happen is we could increase some of the visibility of our actions
Hmm.
and just maybe put out a weekly of what we do, a little bit kind of like how you're doing the Dow call agenda. I think it'd be pretty easy for one of the directors weekly to always, and not the same one, hopefully, but have a director always pop in and just give a quick update on what kind of director action, if any, occurred that week.
Yeah, I'd love to see a DAO director's forum post living in our Discord here because it's just we have so many more eyeballs on it, and maybe that might even increase a little bit more awareness around this organizational structure.
Do you guys tweet about it when you sign anything?
Not from my personal accounts. We haven't any of us really had that habit yet, and there is no DAO director's social media account. So maybe that could be a consideration, or maybe we could also consider tweeting from our personal accounts. I know that Dan has mentioned once or twice about operational security, and it's not necessarily the most exciting thing to go out there advertising who are our signers. So that might be a part of it, but maybe a social media account front end wouldn't be a terrible idea, at least for just PR too.
I
Yeah,
talk about
that's
it
what I
all
was
the time
thinking.
on Spaces. I always mention that I'm part of the Aavegotchi DAO. That's how I got to know Thread Guy because he was running for Ape Council. Like, yeah, I'm out there.
So my thinking is if you set up an account like for the DAO, so that you can use that essentially to advertise, and then I can set up auto poster so that GotchiBot reposts all of the tweets, and then anyone who wants to can just look up tweets from that account in our server, and they'll be able to find the full report.
Yeah, but that's like kind of like a whole other job. Like we're asking for like a whole new like level of media creation. You got to manage an account. Like, I
No,
don't
no,
really
just
want to
just
do
like a factual, like what did we like AGIP whatever was signed today, and then tweet that out. It's literally just whatever the AGIP was and how much was sent out and for what, and a fully factual tweet. You don't have to put any effort into it really.
You, so I agree with you there, Drax, and I'm into that. But to credit that as little or no effort is unrealistic, right? Because nobody wants to do more than they have to, and you've already got directors who very much see their complete capacity as only signing transactions that come down the pipe. And so as we start to grow, social potential workload and other actions, it is something to think about. But that's what I'm asking the DAO. Is there some more action that we'd like to see out of the directors? We're here
Yeah,
at
I
y'all's
mean,
selected. We are here per y'all's vote of confidence. And so if it's just little things like tweets and stuff, it's nothing wrong with the DAO asking the directors. We can have those discussions about what is and isn't in our lane.
yeah, I mean, I can see like a stipend being paid to people for doing the job essentially. And like the X Pro thing allows you to delegate, like you said, so you can have a whole bunch of people able to post, and you can see who posted, right? Like from the admin dashboard. So it's still like there's accountability there. It's not just a random person, whoever has access to post. Um, but yeah, like we can figure out some kind of stipend thing. My idea was just essentially so that we would have a mirrored image of the social media thing, which could act as advertising to the general Twitter population how much we're spending on our community from our community.
Totally, yeah, and that we have functioning governance in place that's consistently operating. That's worth advertising about. I'm into it. It sounds like we probably need to spin up a DAO discussion forum in here, a dedicated topic where friends can kind of uh, just add all their ongoing or deeper questions here. I know some friends are asking about the needs for elections in general still. I think the discussion's not settled and over maybe within the community. So, by all means, anyone that still wants more of this particular topic, let's see someone spin up a DAO discussion forum and lead the way on it.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
see, FaZe actually brought up a good point here that, there probably are other DAO members that maybe are interested in doing this position or being more involved in this part of the DAO. And so there is a question there still of how do we, maybe there is a term length, but it's a longer, it's a defined term length, but maybe it's not a year. But there's a periodic opportunity for others to get involved if they would like to. But I think that discussion could definitely continue in the forum post.
I say just do another election. I don't think it's a heavy lift to do a.
It's a heavy lift, bro. Let's just be honest. We had two
Yeah, I
elections.
think
It's messy. I don't know if
Doesn't do
it's a
that.
heavy
Say
lift.
Copy pasta. I mean, the KYC is a heavy lift, and you have to make sure that people don't drop at the end of the process. And this is why it's like annoying and difficult, and that certain people have like kind of doxed people kind of fit into this a little better. Yeah.
But yeah,
I
let's
say pro
go
elections.
ahead.
Let's vote.
Yeah, let's continue the discussion in the forum, and we can follow up on it next week or whatever. Actually, yeah, next week. So, yeah, this is a good discussion. Thank you guys for bringing it up to the surface here, and we don't really get to see what the DAO directors do because it's something that's just it's almost something that's taken for granted process because there has been no hiccups so far. So yeah, it's good.
We appreciate that, man. There's nothing but
Yeah.
transparency from this group. We don't answer questions that don't get asked. So, by all means, if people want to learn more, just ask and you shall learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that being said, friends, there are some other discussions here that have been kind of ongoing for a couple weeks that we could touch on. I'll leave it up to the DAO, kind of choose your adventure kind of style. Here, let me just throw this down in the chat. But there's some things to follow up on here, and I know some things Coder Dan brought up as well.
I think I'm gonna dip out early today,
cool.
friends. A little bit under the weather as well with all the been traveling and things. So definitely we'll be back at full speed for next week's call.
Yeah, man. Take care, and yeah, take it easy, and we'll see you again here next week.
Thank you guys. Yeah, amazing job. I think the directors are doing exactly what the DAO voted you to do. So yeah, great work, everyone, and have a fantastic New Year, friends. Hope everyone has some great activities planned for the New Year's, and if not, well, you got Gotchi Guardians, you got Spirit Force Arena. Play some Gotchi games, get some practice in for next year. Shit's gonna be heating up. So thanks for coming out to the Hangout, and I will see you guys next week. But yeah, keep going with other DAO discussions.
Yeah.
I'll probably be watching here in the chat, but I'm gonna get off.
Happy New Year, friend.
Happy New Year, man. Take care.
Happy New Year, Gotchi gang. Peace.
Peace.
And shout out, man. That's a rare Roxiana sighting there. She just dropped her latest YouTube video there in the chat. She's still hard at work.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool, actually. Awesome. So we do have like about 4 discussions here that have been heating up in the chat. I know Dan just left, so probably table the liquidity to Binance Coinbase till next week. But there was a pretty good discussion last week around respec potions, XP, kinship potions, and that's one thing. That's one path we can go down. There's also fractional cores brought up by Oliver Spoon, which I thought, or Phantasma, I can't quite remember, who did a really good job of breaking down a interesting mechanic, and then the Pixels collab, which seems like a light lift to get ourselves in there, and just for visibility and integration sake, kind of like a Web3 kind of deal. So, friends, what would you like to discuss? This is the end of your discussion, so I thought I'd keep it kind of loose here, but we definitely have these 3 things here that we could get into. Oh shit, what's that? Nice. Otherwise, I'm also okay if you guys want to take it easy for the last call of the year. We can also end off early. I'm okay with that too. Up to you guys.
Isn't GMI hosting something after this?
I have no idea, man.
Yeah, shocker, right? No, we're gonna call it off for the end of the year. I'm gonna do my drawing and pull prize winners for the fireside roast that we did last weekend. 108 fakes got burned on that. I'll do a prize drawing and get that from our social medias. But yeah, no events after today. This will wrap us up for the end of the year.
Well, it's been a great year, friends. It sounds like there isn't too much excitement on these topics for today, which I understand. We hit it hard every week, and I appreciate, I'd just like to kind of express my gratitude for, all 48 of you here that made it for the last call, and many others that show up to these calls regularly, because it's, it might not be the most convenient time for everybody, but like having that sort of dedication in the DAO, coming here, like I consider all these people core members, And it's been really fun seeing all these interesting faces show up, familiar faces now show up for these calls and contribute in their own way.
So for me, at least for the wrap up of 2023, I'd like to issue a challenge to these 48 members in the audience, right? Is get involved in the governance process. Change seats and get out of that peanut gallery and get in the trenches, get into the mix. If you don't like what people are saying, if you don't like the representation, if you don't like the proposals that are being written and passed and evaluated, then do something about it. Write something, lead a discussion, start a DAO topic. This is a very active group that is very open to good ideas that are well presented. And so we always get better by discussing and working things through each other. I've watched many topics go through tough scrutiny and tough discussion, almost to the point of argumentative combat, but that's the point. Iron sharpens iron, and the DAO is working. If you don't like what it's doing, then do something about it. Otherwise, everyone that's here is contributing to our success. And so figure out if you feel like you want to contribute more, let this be the year you step up on stage, request the mic, and let people hear you.
Well, and I'll also say it can be nerve-wracking to do these things, but it takes a little bit of curiosity and just know that the DAO is receptive, whether argumentative or not. We're all here to push forward a common mission, and now we have a mission, so we can all attach to that and share that. And so, yeah, I'll also echo that and say, hey, start a forum post, start small. If you want, just get involved in the chat. I love to see the comments rolling through when we're discussing things, because being up here on stage it's not you don't want to be the guy on stage sharing all your opinions. You want to be the guy who's facilitating the conversation and having everyone chime in and sharing all together in a conversation. And so, I'll just throw that out there from my perspective. That's where my appreciation comes from, is all of y'all contributions to the DAO calls through the chat. So, but yeah, I mean it sounds like everybody is pretty content with this year, this end of year kind of where we're ending off here at the end of the year. I don't know. There's some pretty big things we could celebrate this year. There was ETH Denver that we kicked off. There's some pretty big DAO built releases that we can look forward to in the new year. And Pixelcraft shipping as always, and building on Gotchi chain, and that's only gonna I think strengthen our IP in this space. Oof. 1984.
I saw that IRL. He was wearing that while we were in Miami.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
Did you forge that yourself? Crypto Green asking, will there be another leaderboard for building parcels? If so, Q1. I'm not sure. I would direct that to Immaterial. I think he might have more alpha on that for you, sir. Andy Tudor. Yeah.
I do see Twan in the audience right now there. No future onboarded Twan. I think it was just as early as last week. I just want to give him a shout out too. It's fun when new friends show up and start asking tough questions about our project. It's always exciting to get to explain the inner workings and the technical details and see if it stands up to newly evaluated opinions.
Yeah, new opinions are always welcome. And remember, free speech exists here. Free speech is not to protect what you want to say. It's to protect the opinions you don't like. And so we welcome that here. And, new friends, welcome. Share your opinions.
Goobs, I love that, by the way. That's great. I would change. I don't know. What would I wear on my body, though? It can't just be naked. I'm not just sitting here naked doing transactions.
What is this supposed to be? Like an IRL representation?
Well, not if he's not going to be naked.
With my ledger. or my treasure.
With no pants on?
I'm wearing pants. I'm not wearing a shirt right now, but I'm wearing pants. I guarantee that. It's cold in Nashville.
Thanks, Andy, for that too. That's from Andy Tudor there. If y'all saw his comment, he's only been here 6 months, but he's super stoked about being part of the community. We've leveled up our Pixcraft staffing this year too. We've added some really great team members to that crew, and we're lucky for it.
Oh yeah, some real gems for sure. You know, seeing that manifesting in this arena gameplay, and that's, you know, among many other titles, one that I'm really excited about. Yeah. All right, friends. Well, it sounds like you know, if there's anything else you'd like to share, feel free. But I'm okay ending off a little bit early here for the end of your call and letting y'all get on with your, uh, you know, New Year's plans. I know that's not for another little bit, but you know, wrapping up the end of the year and reflecting on all the things we've accomplished this so far, and look forward to next year.
Let's call it a wrap, Gotcha Gang.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy the rest of our weekend here. Happy dang 2023 to everybody. We're going to have a good 2024. Appreciate all the support and awareness. Love you lots.
Yeah, much love, Gotcha Gang. Happy New Year, and we'll see you again next year.
Take it easy, friends.
Peace.